to the video. Before we begin, if not already, please take a moment to subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. And click the bell icon to receive notifications when I upload. Comment your little heart out. And most of all, please enjoy. Now back to the video. You know, we've seen this movie before. A mute killer stalks a bunch of young adults in the woods. One by one, they're picked off with a variety of weapons, methods, and deaths, eventually leaving a single final girl, leading to a showdown where the killer is beaten temporarily. Friday the 13th, Sleepaway Camp, The Burning all share this formula. We always seem to focus on the victims. But what about the killer? Don't they get a voice? Pardon the expression. What does Jason do between beheadings? This is in a violent nature.
I'm walking, hear the need, I'm talking, by you and me, I'm hoping.
We open on a gold locket, hanging in an abandoned fire tower. Then someone steals it. A couple of real-time minutes later, the reanimated corpse named Johnny digs himself out of the grave. John walks through the woods, finds a dead fox, ironically killed on a bear trap. He pays his respects, then walks some more. If this is already sounding tedious, strap in. And he comes to a house with two guys, one of whom had been setting the bear traps that killed that fox back there. One leaves, so Johnny just walks into the house, which is filthy, by the way. It looks like an Airbnb after Fleet Week. The locket belonged to Johnny's mother, given to him by his father, so it's very important to him. So important, it's the only thing that keeps his soul at rest and keeps him from being all murdery. He finds a gold locket, and this could be the end of his journey already. But the occupant of the house gets the drop on him and shoots Johnny, which has no effect on him. Someone hasn't been watching Friday the 13th movies. So he runs away, runs right into a bear trap, irony, and this allows Johnny to catch up to him at a leisurely pace. And he obviously kills him, but we're spared the details. Kind of weird in a slasher. He goes back to the locket, and I guess it's still a father's locket, just the wrong father. 2.5 minutes of walking later, Johnny sneaks up on a group of friends around a campfire, and one of them has a chilling campfire story about Johnny's death. Isn't it kind of rude that they're talking about him and he's right there, standing there listening? Kind of awkward. Decades prior, Johnny, a developmentally challenged kid, was tricked into climbing the fire tower for a bag of toys. When he got there, someone was waiting, and he scared him, and he fell from the top of the tower and died, which was made to look accidental, so no one got in trouble. Johnny had allegedly gone on 2 separate killing sprees decades apart since his death. Who says you should slow down when you die? Say Ellen. The kids go inside, and Johnny creeps around outside for about 4 minutes. 4 minutes. One of the guys comes out to take a shit, smoke a J, doesn't matter. This movie was shot in Canada, so Johnny decides to turn him into a local. Gnarly, eh? Johnny drags the body all the way to the nearby ranger station and picks up his mask and dragging hooks. 2 hooks joined with a chain for dragging fallen trees and dead co-eds. Gotta have something to put on the Funko Pop. Walking, more walking, more walking. 2 girls, 1 lake. One jumps in to swim and the other goes off to do yoga. Johnny goes for a walk, Pirates of the Caribbean style. Takes a while, but he gets to the girl eventually and drowns her. He gets out on this side, so at least we don't have to wait for him to walk back. He strolls, over to the next victim, Yoga Girl. Honestly, I don't blame him for taking his time. The scenery is beautiful. Why not just soak it in?
Yoga Girl has nowhere to go, so Johnny rams a hook right through her back, comes out her chest, then he pulls the chain right through, hooks her head, then he pulls the chain back, and it breaks her neck, and it pulls her head through her own torso. She's never been more limber.
Then he throws her body down a cliff, and what did I tell you about this view? Eh? My finger is tired from holding down W. Finds a set of car keys and a Matchbox car on the keychain, and he starts playing with the little car like a little kid. Here we actually get a look at his face. Kinda brutal to look at. Guy comes around looking for the keys, but he doesn't look that far, and he doesn't see Johnny right there behind a tree, and he gives up right away. And this seems to snap Johnny back to the task at hand, and he stops playing with the car to get back to work. He starts chopping one guy, but the other guy shoots him. You know the rules. Bullets only slow down supernatural undead killers. Doesn't stop them. But Johnny's got a hell of an aim. He takes one out by throwing his axe like 50 feet. This is a cool shot. Here, catch. So far, none of these victims had the locket on them, but we get a glimpse of who does, Chris. The remaining kids find the bodies and start to panic. Johnny starts checking down his list. They escape on a quad, which is very dangerous without helmets. I suspect Johnny will still catch up to them. Oh, look at that sunset. You know, it's the small things, guys. You really gotta stop and appreciate your surroundings. Your victims will wait. He tracks them down to that same ranger station. Totally see him coming. He and the ranger have history.
You remember me?
What, the meat on grinder? The ranger shoots Johnny and he goes down again. When you have a ranged weapon, you still want to maximize damage by shooting at point-blank range. The big plan here is to chain him up since they can't shoot him. They seem to know this fact, but they still do all this shit. Of course, Johnny wakes up and the ranger wrestles with him. Johnny overpowers the ranger and breaks his neck. But it doesn't kill him. He's only paralyzed.
Johnny feeds the ranger to a log splitter. First his hand, slowly. Keep in mind he's still awake, but he just can't move. But before he can bleed out, Johnny puts his skull in the log splitter, turns it on, and it slowly lops off his head. Nice.
He goes looking for the rest, but they spring a trap. They have Johnny right where he wants them. The new plan? Taunt him from within axe swinging range.
Come on, you ugly son of a bitch! We're right!
Nailed him. Then he keeps chopping him into hamburger. It's been a day, so I kind of understand his frustration. Chris is the only one left. She has a gas can and a necklace. Could this be a big confrontation with lots of fire? No necklace is worth this bullshit. She just hangs the locket on the gas can and nopes out of there. At least we follow someone else for a little while. Blair Witch says hi, by the way. She falls and gets this huge stick stuck into her leg, so this is gonna slow her down. But she manages to flag down a truck, so the driver takes her away. Chris is in shock, not very chatty, so the truck driver tries to calm her down by telling her about her brother that survived a bear attack. So it's like totally the same thing. But she's bleeding all over her floor mats, so she stops to put a tourniquet on her leg. While this is happening, Chris is staring out the window, waiting for Johnny to pop up out of the woods. She's waiting, watching, waiting, and watching. And I think this is the first time I actually felt any real tension. But Johnny never shows up. Turns out Johnny got his locket back and went home. Just be glad we didn't have to watch the walk back. That was in a violent nature. When you look really hard, this is exactly like a typical Friday the 13th movie with a flipped perspective. Victims have far less screen time compared to our killer, Johnny. Johnny has the most backstory, but mostly dumped on us during a campfire story. A flashback would have betrayed some of the tone of this movie, slow and steady. Johnny's motivation is simple and firmly established. And I'm always fascinated by movies that make me root for the quote-unquote villain. The victims are the usual fodder, and they don't really get interesting until they die. How fucked up is that? The cinematography is lovely. The scenery really makes it feel like a nature documentary. The problem? This isn't a nature documentary. You have to really love the cliches and tropes of this genre to get through this. Pacing is where this movie suffers. The long shots are pretty, but it drags. You feel like you're watching someone else playing Dead by Daylight instead of actually watching a movie. Action scene, walking. Action scene, walking. Action scene, walking. If you're looking for a more fast-paced horror movie, this film might feel like kind of a slog. I appreciate the effort to do something different. The special effects team pulled off some really realistic and unsettling work. No complaints here. Some of the kills are rather inventive and unusual. Typical horror movies are tense because you don't know where the killer is. Oh look, a couple having sex, spear gun. Just flipping the perspective isn't enough to maintain tension. I appreciated the filmmakers wanting to do something different. When you're visually attached to the killer, there's no tension. You see Johnny before the victims, and you even know where things are headed way in advance. He's killing victims the audience has little to zero attachment with. The focus is strictly on Johnny and his quest to recover his locket, which itself is a MacGuffin to justify the body count. Now, I'm not saying Jason, Freddy, or Michael movies are masterpieces of plot and character study, but at least they tended to be fun, entertaining, and kept you engaged, with some exceptions, rarely boring. Even the acting comes across as amateurish at times. And the ending gives you the most tension, you're waiting for something to happen, and then it blue balls you and nothing happens. It is so anticlimactic. Again, subverting expectations, but give us something. In a Violent Nature is two Bs. Due to a slow-burning pace, it certainly delivers gore and visceral imagery. There's just not a lot going on in between. Except for the scenery. It looks amazing in HD. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, the bell, the usual YouTube stuff. This is theNewBee, and I'll see you later, kids. Toodles.
Thank you.